A 72-year-old patient once told me, "Doc, I've been doing it the same way for 50 years, but lately, something feels off." He wasn't sick, he wasn't on any new medication, but something was silently damaging his body. Not masturbation itself, but the way he was doing it. He had no idea it was affecting his heart, prostate, and even his ability to feel. I'm Dr. Mohit Kara, a urologist with over 60 years of experience helping men over 60 maintain strength, circulation, and confidence without shame, pills, or guesswork. You've been told that masturbation is healthy, but after 60, some private habits can quietly become harmful without a single warning sign. In this video, I'll share 7 common mistakes older men make when it comes to masturbation and how to fix them before they drain your energy, hurt your performance, or impact your long-term health. Mistake number 6 is the one almost every man gets wrong. But before we begin, if you haven't already subscribed, now's a great time to hit that button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future tips tailored for men over 60. If this video speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0. Your feedback helps me create better content for you. Mistake number 1, using porn as the main source of stimulation. Over the years, I've had countless men in their 60s and 70s sit in front of me with the same quiet concern. "Doctor, I just can't feel much anymore. It's like my body's going numb, and I don't know why." I usually ask one simple question: how often do you use pornography? Almost every time, their eyes drop, not out of shame, but because they never imagined it could be doing harm. You see, after 60, your brain's dopamine system, the part responsible for pleasure and motivation, is no longer as sharp or adaptable as it used to be. Watching endless clips of fast-paced, high-intensity adult content floods your brain with more stimulation than it was ever designed to handle. And when that happens day after day, week after week, your brain adapts in the worst possible way. It begins to numb itself. That means touch doesn't feel the same. Your body doesn't respond as quickly. Even if you're still physically healthy, your emotional connection and real satisfaction begin to fade. What's even more tragic is that many older men blame themselves. They think it's just part of getting older. But the truth is, it's not age, it's overstimulation. And unless you reset your brain's response system, this kind of numbness can linger for years, even decades. So if you've noticed a drop in sensitivity, connection, or satisfaction, don't ignore it. This first mistake might be the hidden reason behind it all. And surprisingly, the next mistake isn't about what you watch. It's about where you do it and how that environment silently harms your body in ways most men never see coming. Mistake number 2 is up next. Mistake number 2, masturbating while sitting on the toilet. This one might sound harmless at first, even convenient. Over the years, I've spoken with many older men who quietly admit that the bathroom has become their private space, not just for hygiene, but for release. It's the one place with a lock on the door, no interruptions, and a familiar routine that feels safe. But what most men don't realize is that masturbating while sitting, especially on the toilet, is doing more harm than they think. As men age, circulation becomes one of the most vital systems to protect. Healthy blood flow is the foundation of sexual function, prostate health, and even your ability to recover after climax. But sitting for extended periods, particularly in that hunched, compressed position many men take on the toilet, restricts blood flow to the pelvic region. It puts pressure on the prostate, tightens the pelvic floor, and gradually damages the nerves that are already more fragile with age. I've seen the pattern too many times. Men in their late 60s and 70s develop swelling after urination, dribbling, incomplete bladder emptying, or groin discomfort. Yet they never connect it to this private habit. But I can tell you, as a urologist who's reviewed the scans, heard the stories, and followed the outcomes, this seemingly innocent position can set off a slow chain reaction that makes everything, from intimacy to urination, feel worse over time. The solution? It's not complicated. It starts with awareness. If this sounds familiar, consider changing your environment. Stand, recline, give your pelvic area the space it needs to breathe and circulate. Because believe me, your prostate is quietly begging you to stop squeezing it. Mistake number 3, rushing the experience. One of the most common habits I see in older men, especially those who've lived through decades of stress, strict routines, or just learned to get it over with quickly, is this. They rush the experience of self-pleasure. They treat it like a chore, a task to check off, rather than a moment to fully feel and connect. But here's the problem. After 60, your body doesn't function well under pressure, physically or emotionally. I've had patients tell me, "Doc, I just want to get it done. I don't have time to linger." But when you rush, your nervous system goes into a tense state. Your heart rate spikes, blood vessels constrict, and the powerful hormonal benefits of orgasm, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, never reach their full potential. Yes, you may climax, but your body doesn't get the true reward. Instead of satisfaction, you feel emptier. Instead of feeling recharged, you feel drained. Worse still, this rushed pattern trains your body to associate pleasure with something fast, shallow, and disconnected. Over time, you lose sensitivity, you struggle to stay aroused, and you have trouble maintaining interest with a partner. And all the while you think, it's just old age. But it's not. It's the habit of urgency, quietly robbing you of something far deeper than just a few minutes of relief. So here's my advice. Slow it down. Let each moment be intentional. Your body is still capable of deep, satisfying sensation if you give it space to feel. Breathe. Pause. There's no finish line anymore, only presence. And speaking of presence, most men don't even realize they're neglecting one of the most important muscle groups in the male body, a hidden system that controls everything from erection strength to bladder control. That's coming up next, and once you understand it, everything about your sexual health could change. Mistake 4. Ignoring the pelvic floor. Most men have never even heard of it, yet the pelvic floor is one of the most vital parts of your body, especially after 60. It's the foundation beneath your bladder, prostate, and sexual organs, the hidden engine powering everything from erections to orgasms to urinary control. When this group of muscles is weak or neglected, everything begins to suffer, quietly but profoundly. I remember a man in his late 60s, a former athlete and proud father, who came to me complaining about a drop in sexual performance. He said, "Doc, I eat well, I exercise, but something just doesn't work anymore." What he didn't realize was that his pelvic floor, once strong and engaged in his youth, had grown dormant. Years of sitting, holding stress in his lower abdomen, and ignoring that part of his body left him disconnected and struggling. When you masturbate without engaging your pelvic floor, or worse, when you push and bear down, you put unnecessary pressure on your prostate and weaken the very muscles that should support it. Over time, this leads to leaking, dribbling, decreased erection quality, reduced sensation during climax. It doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in quietly, year after year. But here's the good news. You can reactivate those muscles. Gently tighten the area you'd use to stop the flow of urine during arousal. Build awareness and strength with time. This simple habit can restore not only physical function, but also your confidence. Mistake 5. Masturbation frequency, too high or too low. Too much or too little activity in this area can throw your entire system off balance. You might be surprised to learn that how often you touch yourself plays a much bigger role than you've been told. This is a topic many older men hesitate to discuss. Some worry they're doing it too often, while others quietly wonder if they've gone too long without. Caught between shame, confusion, and outdated advice, most men over 60 end up on a lonely, uncertain path. What I've seen in my practice is this. Both extremes can cause harm. When a man masturbates too frequently, out of habit, boredom, or unresolved emotions, his body often can't keep up. Energy levels drop, prostate tissue becomes irritated, and over time, he may notice longer recovery times or a fading interest in real intimacy. It becomes less about desire and more about routine, dulling the nervous system and draining vitality. On the other hand, some men stop altogether, maybe due to medication, health concerns, religious guilt, or the belief they're too old. But what they don't realize is that the body, like any system, needs regular circulation. Sexual arousal, even without climax, helps. Keep blood flowing to the genitals, nourish nerve endings, maintain erectile strength. When absent for too long, atrophy sets in, desire fades, and the door to physical and emotional connection quietly closes. There's no perfect number, but for most men over 60, 1 to 2 times per week, done consciously with presence and care, is often the sweet spot. It allows the body to maintain circulation, restore hormonal rhythm, and keep the system alive without exhaustion. Remember, this isn't about rules. It's about listening to your body. Your body speaks quietly in older age. The key is learning to hear it. And yet, even when frequency is right, one common mistake can undo all your progress. It's something most men do instinctively without realizing it's damaging their nerves and changing the very shape of their manhood. Let me show you what it is in the next video. Mistake 6. Using too much pressure or force. This is one of the most overlooked and damaging mistakes I see in older men. I can't count how many patients have sat across from me, frustrated and confused, saying things like, "Doc, I don't feel as much as I used to," or "It's taking more effort than ever." Behind those words is often one silent habit they never questioned, using too much pressure when touching themselves. I get it. As sensitivity decreases with age, the natural response is to grip tighter, press harder, or try to recreate lost feelings with more intensity. But here's the truth. Force doesn't restore feeling, it destroys it. The nerves in your penis are delicate, especially in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. Years of aggressive friction, hard squeezing, or relying on objects or surfaces that apply too much force can cause real physical damage. Micro tears in tissue, loss of elasticity, even scarring beneath the surface. This may lead to curvature, reduced blood flow, pain during arousal. It's not just uncomfortable, it can permanently change your anatomy. This kind of trauma is a silent thief. It doesn't appear overnight. It builds slowly. By the time you notice, the damage is often well underway. There's another layer. When a man feels he has to fight for pleasure, he disconnects from its joy. It becomes a struggle instead of a healing experience. That mental pattern alone can reshape the body's ability to relax and receive. So, take a gentler approach. Your body deserves it. Your future self will thank you. And speaking of disconnection, there's one final mistake that goes deeper than technique or the body. Something spiritual, emotional, and all too common among older men. It might be the most damaging of all. Let's talk about it. Mistake 7. Masturbating without emotional connection or intention. This is the most invisible mistake of all, and often the most heartbreaking. It's not about what you do, how often, or even where. It's about how you feel when you do it. Over time, many older men begin to view self-pleasure as something mechanical, routine, empty, stripped of meaning. It becomes a quiet escape from loneliness or a dull habit done without thought, without emotion, and without intention. I've spoken with many men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond who say the same thing. It doesn't feel like it used to, or I don't even know why I bother anymore. The truth is, their bodies may still function, but their hearts aren't in it. There's no connection, no presence, no warmth. That emotional distance takes a toll, not just mentally, but physically. When masturbation is disconnected from emotion, it trains the nervous system to expect pleasure without purpose. You might still climax, but your brain and body don't release the same healing hormones. You don't get the oxytocin that boosts mood or the dopamine that builds motivation. Instead, you're left with a sense of flatness, a shadow of what the experience used to be. Even more deeply, it reinforces the idea that pleasure is something you do alone, in silence, without joy. But that's not how it has to be. Even solo touch can be sacred, mindful, and affirming. It can be a moment to reconnect with your aging body, not in shame, but in gratitude. Your body is still yours. It still feels, it still matters. Now that we've explored all 7 mistakes, let's pull everything together. Because real transformation begins when you understand how to rebuild, how to reconnect with strength, confidence, and vitality at any age. Let's talk about what comes next. Ignoring the bigger picture. Your body is still speaking to you. If you've made it this far, I want to speak to you, not just as a doctor, but as someone who deeply respects the journey you're on. Over the years, I've watched many good men struggle in silence. They blame age, time, or even themselves. But the truth is, no one ever taught us how to care for our bodies as they age, especially when it comes to sexuality, pleasure, and connection. You've just heard the 7 most common mistakes older men make when it comes to masturbation. None of them come from laziness or ignorance. They come from habit, from decades of doing what used to work, not realizing that the body, like life, changes. Slower circulation, a more sensitive prostate, a nervous system that no longer tolerates force or neglect, a heart that longs not just for sensation, but for meaning. Let me be clear. There is nothing shameful about touching yourself. There is nothing shameful about seeking comfort, relief, or even joy through your own body. What becomes dangerous is when we stop paying attention, when we rush, when we disconnect, when we assume what once worked will always work. You see, every one of those mistakes, using porn too often, masturbating in poor positions, rushing the process, neglecting the pelvic floor, doing it too much or too little, applying excessive pressure, or going through the motions without emotion, has one thing in common: disconnection. And that's the real threat, not age, not desire, but the slow erosion of your connection to your own body, your own pleasure, and your own vitality. But here's the good news. It's not too late. It never is. Your body is still talking to you, even if it's quieter now, even if it takes longer to respond, even if things don't feel the same. It's still alive, and it wants your attention, your care, your respect. Just like a classic car, it needs different handling with age, but that doesn't make it less valuable. In fact, in many ways, it makes it more sacred. So what do you do now? Start small. Be gentler. Be more mindful. Relearn the landscape of your body. Use intention, not habit. Use curiosity, not shame. Stop chasing performance and start honoring sensation. Don't be afraid to breathe, to pause, to feel. And most of all, don't stop believing that connection is still possible, within yourself and with others. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even early 80s turn their health, intimacy, and energy around once they stopped seeing aging as the end and started seeing it as a shift. You deserve that shift. You deserve to feel again. You deserve to live with awareness, strength, and dignity, even in the most private corners of your life. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about avoiding mistakes. It's about reclaiming the quiet power that's still within you. And I promise you, it's still there. Now, take what you've learned, apply it gently, and remember, your best years are not behind you. They're in how you choose to live this next chapter with care, wisdom, and with pride. If this helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with another man who needs to hear it.